Hi, this is Lourdes Smith, and this is my final project for EDC 532, Seminar in Digital Literacy. I decided to continue on with some of the work I talked about in the course over the semester and kind of try to develop ideas and ways to support the pre-service teachers I work with in RED 3012, Foundations of Reading. This is a course that I often teach. It's an undergraduate course, like I said, for pre-service teachers in elementary education. And their hope and their drive is to become an elementary school teachers in K through 6. For this project, I decided to kind of do a curriculum project where they can learn some aspects of digital literacies as they relate to online comprehension. I made this little website on Google Sites and kind of just a little place to house all my things that I created for this project. Overall, I think this project connects to almost everything I learned this semester and some things that were a review for me. I really love and am interested in digital literacies, as many of us are, and I wanted to, kind of convey that to my, the pre-service teachers I work with. They get a lot of experiences reading digital books and, online, but I don't know if they look at it in the form of ways to support their future students, especially with regard to comprehension. The elements this semester on supporting critical analysis, critical thinking, comprehension online were really vital to me in my own understanding and also supports myself, my teaching, and my research. So that's what I kind of gained toward this project. That's kind of like where I was coming from. So this is my main page, and then from there the tabs across will take you to the specific areas. This is the detailed plan for the curriculum project that I created. So if you go down here and click on the final project, it kind of gives you an overview of kind of like a lesson plan on what I hope. We talked about the lessons that would come in the 3 lessons. So my first lesson, you can see here, I'll just highlight, is going to be basically on connecting digital literacies and online comprehension, talking a little bit about the sociocultural aspects of literacy, another aspect of the class that I really liked and really connected with. I wanted to share that with my future students or current students for their future students. A little bit talking about traditional versus new literacies, and then also specifically looking at digital literacy skills. The second lesson goes into more about problem-based inquiry, and this is where I pulled from Lou and Koiro and some other folks regarding the 5 areas of online reading comprehension. So I focused on this particular lesson, the second lesson, on offering them ways to identify, locate, and evaluate information online. The third part is on focused on the second 2 parts to online reading comprehension, which was synthesis and communicating that information. So for the lesson, which I'll walk through, this is kind of just gives the objectives, the materials that would be needed, the procedures, what it looks like. There's some, there was 3 lessons, so that would be 3 different days. Not the entire 3-hour period that I usually allot, but it'd be part of the period, and it would be infused and integrated within the area I focus on for comprehension. So they have assignments and assessments within each module. And then they have some little activities, and then they have some big activities. So that is the lesson plan pretty much, or the how I detailed the plan for curriculum. This is the presentations with more information on the assignments and the assessments that I used. So for like the lesson 1 PowerPoint, hopefully it'll load here, we can see that this is like the introductory lesson. Goes into the agenda. I review the pillars of reading development, which I use in the class anyway, and highlight the comprehension at the bottom because that's where we would be in that area. Kind of give them a definition of comprehension. Again, this would be a review. Then tie in the sociocultural perspective of literacy. Talk about new literacies, uppercase and lowercase. Go into some traditional reading versus online reading, some of the differences. Go into digital literacies a bit, talk about photo, visual, reproductive, branching, information, socio-emotional literacy by just so they can get an idea. That's a little older, but it's still something I like to bring up. Go into some of the digital literacies found in the standards. Have an in-class activity. This would not be their major assignment, but just an activity where they could look at this website, which goes into, it's an Ed Week article talking about different ways digital literacy is kind of pulled in, bringing digital literacy into the classroom. Ooh, it's loading again. And then they'll do a little activity with their group mate, and then we'll go into online reading comprehension. And just this is the first day, the first class period devoted to this. So we would just do an overview and kind of talk about comprehension online, what that looks like, how it's traditional and, new at the same time. Go into the 5 areas of online reading comprehension, and then when they would have their assignment 1. Their assignment 1 is to create a Voki where they would talk about, they would pick one of these, either digital literacies, new literacies, or multi-literacies, and kind of go into and talk about those and what they kind of do a little research on them, find a URL, and talk about their traditional literacies and digital literacies. The specific thing I wanted here was on the process. I wanted to think about their processes that they're using. And for that, over here on examples, I created a Voki. So they can access the little Voki. And I'll just play a clip of him.
Hi.
Oh, there you go.
This is I'm a student. My chosen topic from the list was on digital literacies.
So just to give you an idea. Then, going into the second presentation, we would start breaking down the, concepts of a little bit on recursive online reading, going into the, the questioning, constructing useful questions, locating types of information, evaluating information critically. And I would talk about those aspects and give them some ideas and some information. Then they would go to a website that's well known in the literacy community, ILA's What's Hot, What's Not survey that they do every year. And I'd want them to access that and kind of look at some of the areas in literacy. This is an inquiry project. It's a little scaffolded. But I want them to use the information from this chart to pick an area that they think is interesting, that they might not be, knowledge of, or they have some knowledge of, or, minimal. And to pick that and think about what's hot, what's not, should it be, why did people choose these, and what else can they find online? What are their questions? This is being turned back on them. So what are their questions? So we're, that's one thing they will do. Then they will have an inquiry activity plan, which they will use for their assignment 2, where they're going to create actually a screencast like I'm doing now. And I made 2 examples for that because there's going to be 2 parts, one for part 1 and one for part 2. So for part 1, they would create an example like this. Ooh, and it kind of already, but you can see here the example that I give them. They would actually, this is an example that I created and spoke over, so to give you an idea. So that would be for part 2. Going back to the presentations and assignments, they have a part 3, a day 3, or we meet weekly for about 2 hours and 50 minutes. So we would go into synthesis, we would go and talk about different kinds, how it relates to comprehension. In class activity they would have on this one, they would follow these links about synthesizing, because I think that's an important skill, both traditional reading and digital literacies. Give them an eye chart, which is one of my favorite graphic organizers, especially for using different resources, different modalities, different types of, multiple text, multi-literacies they're going to be using with these, because they're going to be coming across different things. Talk a little about communicating, which we'll talk about more later. They have their planning chart. Then they have their assignment 3, where they would create another, this is part of their inquiry, they would create another screencast for part 3, which I made an example for that. It looks similar to that one, except for this one, they would have to go into creating an eye chart. I'm not going to hear my own voice. They're going to create an eye chart on synthesizing. And for this particular example I made, it was on the idea of fluency. So they have their questions across the top, part of their inquiry, and connected to why is this not hot right now? Because if you go back to the What's Hot, What's Not article, fluency is not considered hot. And hot meaning not, it's not that it's not important exactly, but it's not immediately on anybody's mind right now. It's there, we're using it, It's considered one of the pillars, but it's not. It's considered cold, or it's not in the limelight right now, like things like assessment, which often always is, and standardized, standards actually are often as Common Core. So those kind of things are often as fluency, phonics, phonemic awareness. Those are, and writing to some extent, are kind of on the outs. Writing's coming back a little bit though. So on the side here, they'd write up on top the questions, new questions that they found, and then it's kind of hard to see down here. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. You can see down at the bottom they would synthesize what the 3 different articles that they found. This one was from an art. I have the website over here. This was from Rosinski. The second one, Shanahan, on the third. So you can kind of get an idea, just the taste. It's not a full activity, but it's just something that they can do to work toward this, because this isn't my whole curriculum, but it is something I want to touch on. So going back, they have rubric. Oh, I'll go over that in a second. Their other one that they work on for their final project is to kind of, they went through the processes, but now I want them to create something. So for their final project, they're going to create and communicate. They're going to talk about what their topic was, like mine was fluency, why they chose it, what was it rated in the Hot Not article, their opinion, if their opinion changed, and then reflect on what skills and strategies students of theirs will need in the realm of digital literacy and online reading comprehension. So if we go back to the examples, I created an example for this. It would be, and what they have to do is also, it's going to be a blog entry. So on my blog, I gave a blog entry of the inquiry process and their own little reflection. In addition to all of the assignments, I made rubrics for each one, and you can access them here. The blog rubric, the screencast rubrics 1 and 2, because they were slightly different, and then the Voki rubric. So like just to click on the Voki rubric to show you, they have a full rubric, and this one's worth 15 points. So that is pretty much my plan. I made a little mini unit on digital literacies and online reading comprehension. I think for this project, although I haven't implemented it yet, I think it's going to be fairly successful, and I think it's going to change. I think it's going to change in the format of my students' needs, my pre-service teachers, what they're interested in. I'm using the What Hot, What's Not from 2016 because the new one hasn't exactly come out yet for this project, but I will, update it and change it for 2017 when it comes. I'm really excited about the things I learned in this class overall. The apps were fantastic as usual. I learned a lot over the summer in the, like I was saying, I had a little snafu there, but as I was saying, I learned a lot over the summer on different kinds of apps and different kinds of materials, ideas, processes. And I think that's what I gained even more in this class, though, was great apps and great processes that are underlying those. I really love technology, and I love literacy, and I love digital literacies, but I think what's missing for a lot of teachers and for a lot of pre-service teachers is, how do I integrate this all together? What is expected of me? And what, what processes do I need to convey to my students in order to get them to have the digital literacies that they need for their future? I think that's an important aspect for all of us to consider, and this course kind of supported that. It kind of provided me insights into different literature, different articles that there were some very familiar and there were some brand new, and gave me some real interesting ideas for supporting my teachers, my pre-service teachers, my in-service teachers that I work with when I work at the graduate level. Really, really good stuff this semester. I am thrilled with the what came about, and I like this project a lot. I think it's something not only that I found fun and interesting, but also something that I think I will use. I know I will use it. So my last little branch over here is just an open space where I'm going to post this screencast. My reflection is embedded. I made some notes throughout. So I just want to say thank you to both Julie and Kara. You did a fantastic job, and I really appreciate all your help and support. Thank you.